concerned, I think that there is obviously much more linkage now. But it's a very long topic, so I don't want to go into detail. But I think that the format of reading on the internet, people are dealing with much more text than before. Pakistani kids are texting each other on WhatsApp, on Facebook, and Twitter. So there's much more text in people's lives, words. But the way of reading is completely the opposite of long-form immersion, which is the way in which a novel has historically been read. And that is having all kinds of effects, I think, on reading and likely writing. I think young people today, when I go to campuses in Pakistan, but also abroad, Stanford, Yale, some of the best universities in America, the way they write is incredibly different than it was 10 or 15 years ago, at the best universities. So I think something is definitely happening, but that's an entire different panel probably.
It just reminds me of a question I wanted to put to you, Samir, as well. It's to do with technology, really. The writers that you were talking about in Egypt or in the Middle East generally, the ones who are concerned with who are on the periphery, you describe them as writing peripheral stories and being on the periphery. I wonder whether there is scope for those people, as a result of technology, to have their voices heard in a completely different way, as bloggers who might then write novels that are based on blogs, as opposed to writing the conventional novel and going through the conventional route of being, published in a kind of the way that we are used to.
Go back to this idea of periphery. I don't want to be misunderstood. They are peripheral, writing from the periphery, but this is a periphery that has become the center. Right? I think that's very important. They are not peripheral at that level, because the periphery has become the center. That's one. Two, the idea of the relationship between, these peripheral writers and technology. And publishing and the literary world. And indeed, we have several examples of bloggers who produce novels, actually, as blogs that were then published by major Egyptian publishers, actually. And one of them, I think, was a candidate to be translated into English. Very interesting text entitled, "And I was at Gilwis, I want to get married." And it's about this young woman, maybe you've heard of it. So that's in the pipelines, I think. It has been translated into English, yeah.
More questions? So, the microphone's there. Great, thanks.
Just one question regarding something that you pointed out about authenticity. Especially after 9/11, you get the feeling, at least in South Asia, that there's this desire for the novelist to stand in for what the journalist or the documentary filmmaker was supposed to do and provide, what makes these people tick. And especially wherever the US Army lands a few years later, there's a spate of novelists who are writing about the experiences of that. And so there's almost, at least in Pakistani writing, you felt that there was a straitjacket that you have to have big ticket politics in the narrative, otherwise you're not going to get published. Is that a fair assertion to make?
To the Pakistani novelist on the panel, perhaps.
Having never written about politics in my own novels, it's difficult to answer this question. No, it certainly seems to be the case that lots of Pakistani novels written by people connected to Pakistan, have dealt with these sorts of themes. It's also the case that